In this video, you'll learn the factors that impede successful eating behaviour change and how to avoid them, gain an understanding of why we lean towards eating more indulgent foods, and learn some tips that'll help you be successful in your eating behaviour change. One of the biggest factors to someone's lack of success in an eating behaviour change is not so much in the foods they are eating, but the associated feelings of distress that come with it. Guilt is a horrible, wasteful feeling that leads to overstressing and obsession, and at the end of the day acts as a distraction to our successful behavioural change. But having these feelings is not your fault. Although it is best to work on avoiding these feelings of guilt, it is an easy trap to fall into when it's constantly thrown in our face. This prevalent good food, bad food pop culture in dieting has really done nothing but set us up for failure in our journey to good health. All it does is lead us to psychological distress, which leads us to physiological distress, which can set our body's function on a less than favourable trend, which is the last thing we need when we're trying to adopt better eating behaviours. The simple fact of the matter is that there is no such thing as a good or a bad food. All foods have nutrient profiles. Some just happen to be more energy dense than others and are best left for a more moderate to low consumption, not avoided entirely. When we do choose to consume these indulgent foods, enjoy them. Don't be hard on yourself for consuming them. It'll do nothing but add fuel to the fire of failure. In fact, there is a primal reason that we lean towards consuming these more indulgent foods. You see, our brain is wired to release a dopamine response to make us more attractive to consuming these types of food. As back in the day, foods high in calories, especially ones that didn't cost much energy to get, were our best means to prolong our survival because it meant less risk of starvation. So foods higher in calories are favoured with this dopamine response compared to those with lower calories. Fortunately for us, the risk of starvation isn't as prevalent as it was thousands of years ago. Unfortunately for us, however, the ease of getting these hyperpalatable, energy-dense foods is as easy as a click of the button and it arrives right at our door. So, we are physiologically wired to want these foods, but now they are much easier to get, making the risk of becoming overweight much higher. Couple this with a much less active lifestyle, and we've got a serious problem. So hopefully, now that you have a better understanding of the why, you won't be so hard on yourself when you go for one of those tasty treats. So what does this mean for us if we're trying to improve our health, stay in a healthy weight range, and feel better? Well, a simple guide we can try to stick to is using the 80-20 rule. That is, 80% of the time we want to consume minimally processed whole foods. These are foods like beans, legumes, vegetables, unprocessed grains, and unprocessed lean meats and other foods of this nature. Think foods that are grown or once living, and allowing ourselves no more than 20% of the time to consume these more palatable, more processed foods. These include things like ice cream, chips, cake, burgers, and other more indulgent foods. Trying to consume only clean foods is very unachievable and quite difficult, and can often lead to the development of disordered eating behaviours. Not to mention, can make things very difficult in a social setting. So do yourself a favour and live life a little, with moderation of course. We all want to live longer, but it's important to enjoy the time here that we have. After all, adherence, that is being able to actually follow a diet, is the most important factor to a lasting successful eating behaviour change. If you try to follow rules that you simply can't, it just won't work. So how do we set ourselves up for success? Well, here are a few simple tips. Make the more energy-dense processed foods harder for you to get. Keep them out of the house or simply out of sight. Make the unprocessed whole foods easier to get. Put them in places where you can easily see them. Maybe keep fruit on the kitchen or dining table. Try organising the fridge and pantry so that the unprocessed whole foods are the first things you can see. Another thing we can do is pre-cook some balanced meals so they are ready to go, making them the more likely option for us to choose as opposed to takeaway. If you're not a fan of cooking, try making the process a little more enjoyable. Play some music while you cook. Or try cooking something from your childhood that you really enjoyed. Just add some veggies and swap out some of the processed foods for a more whole food option. What's your favourite takeaway option? Maybe try to make that at home yourself. That way you know what's going in it, and you have more of an opportunity to add a bit of a whole food spin to it. Those are just a few options, but don't be afraid to get creative with it. There are thousands of ways to create eating behavior change. The best way is to be more inclusive with your diet, that is, include more whole food options like fruits and veg, as opposed to exclusive with your diet. That is, eliminating the more processed, energy-dense foods. You'll find in adopting the former approach, the latter tends to take care of itself. And remember, adherence is key. Try to choose something that you can implement in your current lifestyle. Start small and progress. Set the foundations. And before you know it, you'll be living a much healthier, automated life. Try not to be hard on yourself for eating the things you think you shouldn't, or if you make mistakes along the way. After all, if we didn't make any mistakes, we would never learn. Keep trying, find what works for you, and don't be afraid to ask for help or guidance. Reaching out to a professional will make things a whole lot easier in adopting those new healthy eating behaviors and help take out some of the guesswork. But most of all, remember, you can do it. That's it for now. Happy training.